What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we've got a new Nintendo game to talk about because Splatoon Raiders, the newest entry in the Splatoon series, got announced out of nowhere on the Nintendo Today app. That's right, I woke up this morning at 9 a.m., checked my phone, I have the little widget on my phone for Nintendo Today for some reason, and I saw a big Splatoon icon, and I said, well, that's kind of odd. They don't usually post about Splatoon on there. And I clicked it, and it was a new game. Splatoon Raiders, a spin-off of the Splatoon series. And I think this is just a fascinating announcement for so many reasons. Not just because it's super exciting, but also for what it means for the Splatoon series and Nintendo at large. And I've just got a lot of thoughts rumbling around in my head. So today, we're going to talk about the new game for a little bit. This is going to be more of a casual video, a little bit shorter of a video, hopefully. I've been doing some long ones recently. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Splatoon Raiders, the newest game announced by Nintendo today. Again, 8:30 in the morning, I believe, on the Nintendo Today app, which is very odd. I remember back before the Switch 2's launch, they were doing 11 a.m. daily updates on the Nintendo Today app. They dropped this one at 8:30 Eastern Time for some reason. I have no idea why. But before we get into the implications of this announcement, let's just talk about the game itself. This looks awesome. It seems to be a single-player action-adventure spin-off of the Splatoon series, which sounds incredible. I've seen a lot of people say today, I haven't really gotten into the Splatoon series because I'm not into multiplayer, but this might get me into the Splatoon series. And first of all, I'm glad to hear that. You know, more people playing Splatoon, the better. I really do love this franchise from Nintendo. But I think people are also sleeping on the single-player aspect of these games. I mean, Splatoon 3 in particular had an incredible single-player story mode. I heard a little bit too much disrespect thrown on Splatoon 3's single-player campaign today, and I just wanted to set the record straight. This game has a terrific single-player campaign. Yes, it's only about 10 to 15 hours of content, but look, it's not a single-player game, right? It's a multiplayer game with a single-player campaign, and the single-player campaign is excellent in this game. So if you aren't into Splatoon because you don't think it has significant enough single-player content, check out Splatoon 3's campaign, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I heard a lot of talk today about how Splatoon doesn't have any single-player relevance or importance, and I think that's just, it couldn't be further from the truth. So a little bit of a shout out to my boy, Splatoon 3. But enough of that, let's talk about the new game that just got announced. Yeah, we haven't seen much of this. We don't know a lot about this game. We don't even know how it plays. We saw a few clips of the main character splatting ink on the ground or at the big man character, so we know that you'll be splatting ink and moving around. The movement system and general gameplay is probably going to be similar to that of Splatoon 3, but given how much they emphasize that this is an adventure, it seems like it will be heavily single-player focused. So I'm just wondering what they're going to come up with to make this feel distinct from the Splatoon 3 single-player campaign, which again was excellent and had so many fun things to do. But at times it can feel a little bit disjointed, right? There is a big overworld where you go into levels from, but the levels themselves could honestly be anywhere. They're not really contextualized within the world of Splatoon 3, but this seems like it's all going to take place on one island, which is a really exciting proposition because it's going to increase the feel of Splatoon tenfold, right? Going from all these disjointed areas of the first three games to one big island with all sorts of crazy looking areas. And we saw in one shot, there's this big tornado with a shine in the middle. Like, time will tell just how big this game is really going to be, but I think it's going to be bigger than the single-player campaigns of Splatoon 1, 2, and 3, which, again, were all around 10 to 15 hours, give or take, of content. And not to say this is going to be a full AAA $80 experience like Mario Kart World or something, but I think there is going to be a lot to dig into here. We even saw in one shot there's this boat that seems to be your hub. So if there's going to be a hub in this single-player campaign, there's going to be multiple areas to explore. There was even a shot of one of the characters fishing, so maybe that's going to be a mechanic, fishing and crafting and all sorts of stuff. We saw Splatoon 3's DLC go in a roguelike direction. Maybe this will go more in an RPG direction for the Splatoon series. Maybe this will be some sort of action RPG take on Splatoon. Not to say Splatoon has never had RPG elements. There's a freaking skill tree in the Splatoon 3 single-player campaign, but maybe they're leaning even more so into some of those aspects for this new Splatoon game. Another takeaway I had about this game is that it just looks terrific. The colors just pop in this trailer, whether it be your teal, light blue main character, or whether it be the light blue water that your hub boat sits on. I mean, my goodness, this game just shines. And obviously that 4K trailer they uploaded looks really nice, really high fidelity. It's interesting because people seem convinced that this is going to be a 2026 game on the internet. And I get why, right? They didn't even give us a window for this game, not even a 2026 date. They just said, stay tuned for more information. So that might suggest that this game is earlier on in development than we might think. But I look at what they showed us in this trailer, and granted, it's only a minute to a minute and a half of gameplay, but it looks pretty high quality. It doesn't look like a pre-alpha build or something. It doesn't look like a game that really needs a lot of time in the oven to cook. It seems like a game that has a lot of polish to it. So I'm not saying this is going to come in 2025, but it doesn't seem like something that's a holiday 2026 game that they're just trying to get ahead of in terms of an announcement. I don't know. This game just looks close to being finished. Maybe that's just because it's a 4K trailer and I'm not used to seeing Nintendo games in this high quality and this high fidelity without YouTube compression, but this game looks really good. So I don't really think we're gonna have a hype cycle of longer than a year for this game. I think at the latest it'll come out in the first half of 2026, but it is weird that they didn't give us a date for it. You would think that because we didn't get a date, it is a 2026 game, like I said earlier, but then why would they not just put a 2026 window on it? But if it was coming this year, why would you not just date it? Why would you not at least say holiday 2025? It's a very weird trailer in that there's a lot of gameplay in it, but there's no information whatsoever about when we can expect this game. I guess we should also quickly touch on the new update for this game right here, Splatoon 3. It's going to get Switch 2 enhancements that's going to make it run better and look better, which is a very appreciated update. I'm sure this game will shine in 4K resolution on the Switch 2. We're also getting a lot of new weapons, and one of the stages from Splatoon 1 is returning. So all very cool things. This update's out on Thursday, so that's incredible. I will definitely be hopping back into Splatoon 3 this weekend, that's for sure. But I think it's interesting as well to consider the context around this announcement and what this announcement could mean for Nintendo's future, both in terms of how they deliver announcements and just in terms of what is coming for them in the next year to year and a half. I think the most immediate takeaway I have from this trailer is that June Direct we were all hoping for is put in serious doubt now that we've gotten this random announcement shadow drop to us at 8:30 a.m. on a random Tuesday. Now, I, of course, made a whole video predicting a June Nintendo Direct that we did not have any confirmation on. If we don't get a June Direct, I might just be cursed, because I made a predictions video in February when it seemed pretty certain we were going to get a February Direct. We didn't. And then I made a June Direct predictions video when it seemed pretty certain we were going to get a June Direct, and it's not looking great right now. So I'll take the blame. If we don't get a June Direct, you can blame me. It's my fault. I'll take one for the team there. Clearly, I am just cursed or something. And clearly, the universe just doesn't want my videos to line up with actual Nintendo Directs and announcements. So, I don't know. There's something spiritually going on against me. But regardless, I don't feel great about a June Nintendo Direct now. If you want to cope, let's cope for a second, because it's fun, it's comforting to cope a little bit. Let's cope and say, in what world would they do this? Announce a new Splatoon game on a random Tuesday and still do a Direct a week or two later? And I guess the logic for me would be that you wanted to give this Splatoon 3 update some hype, right? If you just drop this Splatoon 3 update trailer on Nintendo Today and then on Twitter a few minutes later, it probably wouldn't have gotten that much fanfare. It's a significant update, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of new weapons, a new stage, and enhanced graphics for the Switch 2. Like, those are all significant updates, and I'm excited for all of them, but it probably wouldn't have gotten as much pop as it did announcing it right next to a new Splatoon game. I mean, Splatoon was #1 trending on Twitter today, despite the fact that this announcement wasn't made on Twitter. Obviously, it was tweeted out later, but it was first made on a Nintendo app at 8:30 in the morning. And yes, most of the Splatoon discourse has been around the new game, obviously. We're all super excited for that. But at the very least, people have also been saying in passing, oh yeah, there's also a Splatoon 3 update and it's coming out on June 12th. So this update has gotten a lot more press than it usually would have, and it's going to get more people playing Splatoon 3, getting back into that ecosystem. Maybe it's going to even get people to buy Splatoon 3 that hadn't before. People with Switch 2s that didn't really dabble much into the Switch 1's library, or people who just missed out on Splatoon 3 initially, and that's only a good thing for Nintendo. And that probably wouldn't have happened to the extent that it will if it wasn't preceded by a huge new game announcement. So if you want to cope and say, well, maybe there is still a Direct coming, I think that's the way to cope about it. The fact that they wanted Splatoon to have its moment and wanted as many people to know about this new update as possible, so they sandwiched in a new announcement that maybe isn't quite ready to show a lot of, but is just ready to show enough to where it can have a minute before this new Splatoon announcement. I don't know. That's kind of my cope. That's what I came to, because I would love to see a Nintendo Direct. I love Nintendo Directs. I hope we still do get one in June, and that's kind of the rationale I made in my head for how we could still have a Nintendo Direct this month. I've seen some people say that they just have so much to show that they showed this before the Direct to kind of get it out of the way because there's just too many Nintendo announcements forthcoming. They need to get some out on Twitter. They can't possibly fit all of this into one June presentation. I think that's even more cope than what I'm doing, to be honest. I can't imagine Nintendo saying, oh my goodness, our Direct is too stacked. There's too many announcements. We've got to cut some and post them on Twitter. Especially a game like Splatoon Hunters, which is a spin-off of one of their most popular and successful franchises, especially in Japan. If this was a Pikmin spin-off or something, as much as I love Pikmin, it doesn't have the cultural cachet that Splatoon has. I could see that being dropped on Twitter. I mean, last year we had Nintendo World Championships NES Edition and Emio the Smiling Man revealed on Twitter, but those were both pretty niche franchises that I'm sure didn't sell very well last year on the Switch. Probably nothing more than a few 100,000 units. But Splatoon Hunters is a game that has 10 million sales potential, I would think. The last two Splatoon games have reached those numbers before, and this is one that theoretically would cast a wider net, considering it has more of a single-player focus, which is what turned a lot of people off from Splatoon initially. Now, obviously, it's not going to sell better than Splatoon 2 and 3, because it just won't. It's a spin-off. That's how it works by nature. But we've been talking a lot recently about the big holiday game for Nintendo. If this was coming out in 2025, which I don't think it is, this would be the big holiday game. This would certainly qualify as that one more big title for Switch 2 in year one. And granted, we will still get this game, I would imagine, in calendar year one for the Switch, but in terms of those first 7 months of its lifespan in 2025, I doubt we're going to get this game. But if we were getting it in 2025, it would fit perfectly into that early November, late October spot that we were all thinking there was going to be one more thing put into. Which is all to say that this is a prime marquee Nintendo Direct announcement. This is not something that you just shadow drop on Twitter if you still have a Direct coming, in my opinion. This is not something that you cut out of a Direct because you've got to trim the fat. This is a closer for a Direct type of announcement. This is a huge deal, and all the hype it's gotten on social media, especially in Japan. That original tweet on the Japanese Nintendo account has well over 100,000 likes. An announcement this big doesn't get announced before a Direct. It is one of the marquee announcements of a Nintendo Direct. And again, maybe they just revealed it a little early because they wanted to prop up this Splatoon 3 update, and there's still going to be a Direct next week. I could see that reality, but I think it's more likely than not this is the beginning of the we're not getting a general Nintendo Direct this June. Maybe we get a DK Bonanza trailer in a day or two. Maybe we get a Metroid Prime 4 trailer in a day or two with a release date. I think we could get a few things like that, but as much as I'd like to see it, I don't think a June Direct is going to happen. Now, could I see a July Direct? Sure. Could I see a September Direct? Almost certainly. But a June Direct, I'm not sure. The only thing I will say in regards to that is Nintendo still has a lot to line up for 2025. There's only one game dated for them after DK Bonanza, and that, of course, is Pokemon Legends ZA, unless you count the Switch 2 editions, of which there are 2 dated after DK Bonanza. But realistically, there's only one announcement dated past DK Bonanza for Nintendo. That's the last 5 months of the year, and arguably the most important 5 months of the year from a fiscal, marketing, business perspective. They want to make sure that lineup is stacked for the last 5 months of the year. And it seems like it will be, right? We have a lot of announcements floating out in the abyss, but we just don't have dates for them. Metroid Prime 4, Hyrule Warriors, Kirby Air Riders, Dragon Drive if you care. There seems to be a consensus online that the announcement of Splatoon Raiders is going to be the start of the floodgates opening for Nintendo Today reveals, and over the next few weeks we're gonna get a DK Bonanza trailer on Twitter, and a Metroid Prime 4 trailer on Twitter, and a Hyrule Warriors trailer on Twitter, and a Kirby Air Riders trailer on Twitter, and maybe one of those trailers falls to the September Direct. That's a lot to reveal on Twitter in a short time span. Nintendo has never done that. Sure, they've announced a game in a month, but I can't think of a single time they've ever made multiple significant announcements anywhere close to the same time span on Twitter. The closest example we have for that, I believe, is the fact that Emio got revealed initially in July with that teaser trailer, and then Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition got revealed in October. So that's about a 3-month gap between announcements on Twitter. To have one every week or one every few days would kind of be overload, and I think they would cannibalize each other to an extent, whereas if they were all in one big direct, there would be this kind of sense of unity, and one wouldn't drown out the other, and it wouldn't feel messy and complicated, which is to say that I think this idea that we will get a Twitter Direct, which is a common term in the Nintendo community, it seems, I just think there's no way that happens. I think either we're getting a Direct next week, or we're kind of going to be in silence from Nintendo, save for maybe a DK Bonanza overview trailer in a week or two. And for the record, if we don't get a general Direct, I could also see a partner Direct coming later this month. We know there's a lot of third-party Switch 2 games that have yet to be announced that need announcing. So I think worst case, you're looking at a June or early July partner Direct and a DK Bonanza overview trailer, or maybe even a DK Bonanza Direct in early July. But again, I don't think a June Direct is impossible, and I think it's going to be important to look at Nintendo Today and Nintendo's Twitter over the next few days to see what announcements they make. If we get even a DK Bonanza trailer tomorrow or anytime over the next week, I think that signals that a Nintendo Direct is not happening. But if Nintendo Today goes radio silent again for the rest of this week, I think we're kind of back on in terms of Nintendo Direct watch, and we can assume that this Splatoon announcement was just something to give Splatoon fans as a little treat, in addition to that Splatoon 3 update, and to generate more hype for Splatoon 3's new Switch 2 patch. But we'll have to see. Right now, I would bet on no June Direct and maybe a partner showcase later in the month, but obviously I'm hoping for a June Direct, not only so my video doesn't age like milk again, but also just because I love Nintendo Directs so much. I love any video game presentation, you guys know that, I'm a sicko, but I especially love Nintendo Directs, and I feel like even with Splatoon Raiders being announced here and not at a Nintendo Direct, there would still be a lot of cool stuff Nintendo could show at a June showcase. So I hope we still do get that Nintendo Direct proper, and hey, maybe it even has another trailer for Splatoon Raiders with a 2025 release date. We can hope, we can dream, but more than likely that is probably a 2026 game. Just so weird they didn't even put a year on it. Like, that game's not coming out in 2027. It looks too good. They're announcing it too early. That is coming out by the end of 2026. But why would you not just put a 2026 date on it? Why? It's such a weird announcement. I don't know. One more thing I'd like to talk about in terms of intrigue stemming off of this Splatoon Raiders announcement. That kind of sounds like Tomb Raiders, by the way. Is that a pun? Are they making a pun? Splatoon Raiders, Tomb Raiders? I don't know. One more thing, though, I'd like to talk about stemming off of that game is EPD5. And what we think EPD5, the studio responsible for Splatoon and Animal Crossing, are getting up to. Are they working on this game? Is this being made by some sort of support studio while EPD5 works on Splatoon 4 and the next Animal Crossing? Or is this what they're working on right now? The way this trailer looks and the gameplay looks, with how polished it is and how colorful it is, it feels like this is at least in part being worked on by EPD5, so it makes you wonder when their next big game is coming, because as much as I am excited for this is just a spin-off, right? Splatoon 4 and the next Animal Crossing are two of the most anticipated games for the Nintendo Switch 2, and you'd hope one of them is coming out relatively soon. And I think with the announcement of Splatoon Raiders, it would suggest that Animal Crossing is the next big thing to come out of EPD 5. That way, you give Splatoon 4 a little more time to cook, a little more time to sort of make itself feel unique, expand its horizons a little bit, and then Animal Crossing, which will have a 6-year gap in between games, can perhaps be the holiday game of 2026. Not to look ahead too far. I know that's like a YouTuber thing to do, to say, well, what's the holiday game in 2026? But I think it could make a lot of sense for it to be Animal Crossing. I've said before how I thought Splatoon 4 was going to be, at the latest, a 2026 game, but I think this new information shows us it's probably going to be a while. I could even see it slipping to 2028 at the latest, which feels so far away, but that would give the Splatoon series a pretty solid cadence of releases, right? 2017 for Splatoon 2, 5 years later, Splatoon 3, about 2 or 3 years later, Splatoon Raiders, and then 2 or 3 years later after that, Splatoon 4. I think that's a pretty good cadence for Splatoon, which is trying to establish itself as one of the biggest franchises in gaming, if not just for Nintendo. So, not really top of the mind, not really too important right now, but it's something to watch, because I think if I'm right, and if Animal Crossing is to follow this Splatoon spinoff, we might see an announcement for that as soon as a September Direct for Nintendo, or if this June Direct is truly going to happen, which again, I'm still skeptical, perhaps we see an announcement of a new Animal Crossing game at a June Direct, even if it is over a year off, just to generate more hype for the new system. But that's kind of getting off track. The point of this video is to say I am super excited about Splatoon Raiders. I think that's going to be an awesome game, and I hope that Nintendo still has some announcements for us in the form of a June Direct. But let me know in the comments, how excited are you for a new game in the Splatoon series? And do you think we're still going to get a Nintendo Direct later this month? Give me all your thoughts down there in the comments. It's a party down there, and I will be responding to all of them. But again, that's all I have to say for this video. Make sure to like it, subscribe, hit that big fat button. June Direct or not, it's going to be a busy summer for gaming, and you don't want to miss any of it. It's all going to be covered on this channel, so subscribe for new videos in the future. Share the video with someone who's excited about this new Splatoon game. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.